Hi, hello English readers, and welcome to Lydie's Book Club August live read along. I'm Lydie Bureau and I'm an English teacher in France. I'm also the founder of Lydie's Book Club, in which I host live readings of adaptations of classics of English literature and contemporary novels. Each month we read and explore a different book for all levels of English, and once a week I meet the members of the book club in a live workshop by Zoom to discuss the chapters of the book that we are currently reading. In this book club, I also tend to prioritize books that are written by women. And this month we are reading the contemporary novel Our Wives Under the Sea, written by Julia Armfield. She is a British writer, and it's her debut novel. And this book is aimed at people who have a C1 plus advanced level, because we're reading this book in its integral text. So it's not an adaptation. So you need to have quite a good level in English to be able to understand this novel. If you'd like to know more about the novel and Julia Armfield's work, I invite you to listen to the podcast episode 23, An Introduction to Julia Armfield and Our Wives Under the Sea, which is available on my YouTube channel, Lydie's Book Club YouTube channel, and the Spotify podcast, Reading in English. Over the next 3 weeks, I'm going to host 10 live reading sessions, Instagram live reading sessions, that will also be available to watch on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, and also on Spotify, on the Spotify podcast. And in addition to these live reading sessions, I'm going to host three live workshops based on the novel, so this novel, so that the members of the book club will be able to improve their speaking skills and share their views on the novel. And these live workshops will be hosted via Zoom on 3 Saturdays. And to make sure that you attend these live workshops, then you have to subscribe to the book club and be part of the conversation. So make sure you subscribe. Also, I'm pleased to announce that from now you can purchase the 3-part live workshop on Daisy Jones and the Six, which is our July live read along. And again, this is aimed at people who have a C1 plus level in English, or advanced, because we read the book in its integral text. So you have to have quite a good level in English to be able to read this book. And once you purchase the workshop, you'll be asked to create your own login, with which you get a private access to the videos to watch and enjoy at your own pace. So you will just watch the live recording sessions and enjoy. Right, so today it is our second session of Our Wives Under the Sea live read along, and we are going to read pages 20 to 33. But before I get on with the reading, I just want to do a quick recap on session 1. So we read up until page 19. So if you missed that session, and or you don't remember much since yesterday, then here's a quick recap so that you can easily catch up with the plot and just refresh your minds. So the novel is structured in 5 different parts. So you've got the Twilight Zone. Let me get this. So there is the sunlight. So we are in the sunlight zone, which is the first zone. And then there is the twilight, the midnight, the abyssal, and the hadal zone. And in each part of the zones, then you've got chapters entitled Miri or Mary. Yeah, be careful because the pronunciation is apparently Mary, although it's written Miri, Miri, but apparently it's Mary. So we have chapters. So the chapters are entitled Miri or Leah. It's always Miri, Leah, Miri, Leah, Miri, Leah. So when we are reading a chapter called Miri, then it's the narrator is Miri herself, recalling memories and of the past, and also talking about the present. And when it's Leah, the narrator of the chapter. So this is how the novel is structured. So that's I wanted to take this time to talk about the structure, because it also helps you understand how the writer, the writing style of the novel, I would say. So it is quite, I personally think that it's important in order to be able to understand the novel and know who is talking about who and what. So it makes the reading experience much more efficient, much more agreeable as well, when we are in a position where we understand, in which we understand better who is talking and what it and about and the topic as well. So here Mary is talking about the fact that so she's talking about the situation in the present and the fact that, so she's telling us that Leah has returned a month ago, and since her return, then she's noticed a lot of changes in her attitude, things that she used to do in the past and she doesn't do anymore. Now she doesn't eat much. They used to eat dinner sitting on the rug and watching TV like teenagers, and now she barely eats, and Mary eats alone in the kitchen. She also notices that Leah is only talking about the ocean. When they have conversation, the little conversation that they have now, it's about the ocean. So it seems like now Leah, since she got back, she has this obsession about the ocean that she probably didn't used to have before. After that, we learn also that Leah bleeds a lot now, and unexpectedly, since she got back. She has nosebleeds, but sometimes she bleeds from the teeth or from other parts of her body. And Miri is quite terrified about this. And especially at the beginning, she was really terrified, and she panicked when she saw her bleed for the first time. But straight away, Leah pushed her away, refusing Mary's help. So from that point, from this moment on, then Mary started feeling a sort of a resentment towards Leah, and almost blaming her for ruining the sheets or with the bleeding, and being very upset at her. So she starts developing these feelings of anger towards Leah, instead of being worried about her. But because she pushed her away, she feels rejected in a way, and now she's blaming her and resent her. After that, we moved on with the chapter based on, well, when Leah is the narrator. And there is the first sentence is actually a question. Did you know that until very recently, more people had been to the moon than had dived beyond depth of 6,000 meters? So here it's quite interesting to notice that she uses, well, the author used the pronoun you, which shows that Leah is addressing herself to the reader directly, which brings a feeling of proximity with from the reader, with the reader and the narrator. So there is this proximity. She's directly talking to us, questioning us, and it's quite a different approach towards, in comparison with Miri's style of narration. And then here we have Leah just questioning, well, reflecting on the ocean and how it works, and at the same time reflecting on the ocean and recollecting memories from the events of the incident and the drowning of the vessel. Here she mentions two people she worked with, so Jelka and Matteo. Matteo seems to be a superior or some sort. And we're not sure yet whether is she a scientist? Is she a soldier? Or are they scientists in this? Or maybe it's a mix of both. We're not really sure about the status of these characters, or and the status of Leah. And the workplace is called the center. So it seems like it's a research center more. So that's why I imagine that it's a scientist, that Leah is a scientist more than a soldier. Otherwise, you wouldn't say center. You wouldn't use the term center, I would assume. Or maybe she's a scientist / soldier. I don't know. Hi, Keti. Hello. Thank you for joining. So I'm just pausing because here I'm live on Instagram at the same time. So did you have the time to reread the first pages of the novel? Because I'm just doing the recap at the moment. I haven't started reading the novel, the second part. So I hope you managed to. I hope you understand better the beginning of the novel. Hi, Ryan. Hello. Are you born in England? No, I was born in France, but I lived in England for 8 years. I lived there. and now I back in France. Thank you for joining, Ryan. Thank you. I hope that you will enjoy. Do you like reading? And have you read this book? Or you tell me a little bit more about your reading? What's your level in English? Tell me if okay, a bit. Yeah, right. Great. Okay. So let me continue. If you have any questions, like I'm keeping up, don't worry. Okay. Great. Okay. So where was I? Now in the second the chapter Miri again, page 12, on this edition. I hope you have the same edition as me, because otherwise the pages are not going to match. So then it's Miri talking again, telling that now she's got mouth ulcers. So it means that she is she has a lot of pain in with her teeth in her mouth, and she's complaining a lot. She works from home, and it's quite difficult now for her to have Leah around, and she's actually questioning whether she enjoys her presence, or it feels more like she's invading her space. So there is this sentence: I can't decide whether to register her presence as relief or invasion. So I quite like this sentence. So it really reflects her feelings of being annoyed or not. She's quite confused. She's quite confused. She has mixed feelings about her presence now, with the Leah, the Leah who came back. Sorry. So yeah, that's about. Yeah, that's where she's at with her feelings, with her at the house. And after that, there is here the end of this Miri's part, in which she's remembering the past with Leah, and the good times they spent together. She's being quite nostalgic at this point, and while she is remembering the good times, and it's quite interesting here how we select, how our brain selects, because she is very unhappy at this point, and how the brain selects those moments and maybe make them even better than there were actually, and how she just remembering those good moments, and fantasizing on these good moments that probably weren't that special at the time, but now they feel very much special. And here also we learned that it seems like the center, so the workplace so Leah's workplace, didn't really well informed Leah, Mary, and maybe the other people, well, relatives from the people who who were in the mission and drowned with the vessel, who got lost in the ocean. It seems like the center didn't really inform them properly about what was happening, about what was going on in the center, in the vessel, and about the incident. So here, but this is my interpretation of these and the comparison between those two passages, because just after that we have the final, the last, not the final, but the a section, a chapter with Leah, and here she remembers also her time, but instead of remembering moments, the past with Miri, what she remembers is the events of the accident and the mission. So here she's not, so we can see the different how the different topics or the different themes that that these two women, or this couple, is at this point in their life, and what they care about in the end. So here we see that in Miri's chapter, she's very much she's strong feelings about, she's remembering their time together and their relationship, while Leah is not talking about their relationship and remembering their time together, but she, as we talked about, she's now obsessed about the ocean. She now remembers and can only think about remembering what happened, recollecting the events of this incident with the vessel. And also helping us to recollect those, or trying to understand the events of this incident, and try to make sense of what happened. Okay, so let me check the messages. I was just keeping on talking, so I just wanted to keep on and finishing the recap of what we read yesterday. So that's why I didn't take the time to read. Sorry. I do like reading. Great, amazing. You're in the right place. Perfect. My level in English is not in English, I guess, is not that bad. Okay, great, amazing. So I'm late. Yes, I have read, but not everything. I still find it difficult to understand everything. Okay, well, that's. I hope that my little recap helped you, Keti, to understand the main points, because here even personally, there are some words that I don't understand. I don't know all the words, all the vocabulary in English. And it's the same, we very hard on ourselves, especially when the language is not our first language. We want to be able to understand everything and all the words. But to be honest, when you speak with other native speakers, and even in French, sometimes when I read in French, there's some words that I don't remember the meaning, or that I don't know sometimes. So it's okay, I would say, if you don't always understand, it helps totally. Oh, yay, great. I'm happy that it helped you, Keti. And I think that it's okay to not understand every word, as long as we understand the main idea of the passage and everything. I think that that's the most important thing. And as long as it doesn't prevent us from understanding the plot and carrying on with the reading, then, and still, if you feel that you still enjoy, then that's fine then. And maybe at this point it's difficult for you to understand, but hopefully if in a couple years you pick it up again, you say, oh yeah, let's read again this book, then you might have a different feeling about the book, and you feel more comfortable and you understand probably much more. But yeah, it doesn't, and often sometimes we have a feeling about a certain book and later on we understand it in a different way. So and we have sometimes a better understanding because we've grown and we have more experience and a deeper understanding of the characters and what and the message of the writer. So yeah, I guess we have to be kind with ourselves. Yes, last question. Aren't you an English teacher in middle school? Yes, Ryan, I'm a teacher. I'm an English teacher, yes, in middle school. Yeah, definitely. Middle and high school, both of them. Yeah. Right. Okay, let's get started with the reading. Okay. So we are page 20. I hold the phone to my collarbone and yell for Leah. I don't typically like to raise my voice, but the sound of running water has taken on the ubiquity of traffic in our flat, and I have to shout sometimes just to make myself heard. The woman on the line has asked to speak to the authorized personnel directly, as she cannot deal with me on Leah's behalf. So basically, there is this woman on the phone and she wants to talk to Leah. So that's it. That's the idea here. But I have all the numbers, I say. You know the reason I'm calling. Why can't you just deal with me? It has taken 6 separate attempts on 6 different days to get through to a real person. And the elation of this has unfortunately led me to overestimate the extent to which a real person is actually going to be able to help. I'm afraid I can't do that, the real person says now. I can only speak about company matters with the authorized personnel. I open my mouth, close it, try again. But she's my wife. I have all her details. What if I just pretended to be her? Would that be okay? The real person makes an awkward little noise. I'm afraid I can't do that. The sound of running water continues. I consider shouting for Leah again, and don't. I could put the phone down and call you back and I could put the phone down and call you back and do a different voice if you liked. I'll say it's Leah from the start. That way you won't get into trouble. You just tell anyone who asks that I'm her, and it's fine, I swear. There is a curious noise on the line. I can't tell if the real person is sighing or crying or eating a sandwich. I'm afraid I can't do that, Mary. A thin niddling rain, like someone. So here there is a little plus here. So meaning that now we are in a different time. Yeah. So let's see. I have to go. My mom is calling me. Okay, no problem. See you later. Thank you. A thin kneeling rain, like someone is throwing pins from the rooftops. On the sofa, Leah pours cherry coke into a plastic glass, patterned with hamburgers, and then does not drink it. Glides her fingers down the skin of her left arm. She is silvered over, oystered at her elbow creases and around the neck. This is something I noticed when she first came back and wasn't sure how to bring up, though she pointed out herself before too long. Look at this and this. They told us to expect some stuff like that. I'll go away, she says, not so much to me as to herself, just another reaction, a thing to be dismissed, like the bleeding, like the way she sometimes, like the bleeding, remember she bleeds a lot, like the way she sometimes sleepwalks to the bathroom and holds her head under the water, having first filled the bath to a point just shy of overflowing. So it means that here, as I understand it, that she fills the bath up to the very edge of the bath. She fills it up, yeah, to the limit. She doesn't know that the first time I noticed the change in her skin, I was so alarmed that I called 111 and hung on the line for 30 minutes, only for someone to finally come on and ask if I'd ever heard of impetigo. Impetigo. You don't need to look at me like that, she says now, still moving her fingers along the skin of her arm. I can feel your look, she adds, when I open my mouth to say something. But you don't need to. It's okay. I'm not looking at you in any special way, I say, in a voice which aims for a joke and misses. She gives me a sideways look, starts to smile, and then doesn't entirely. Okay, she says, so you're not looking at me. My mistake. The conversation, brief as it is a welcome break in the silence, though the silence resettles shortly afterwards, somehow heavier than before. I have found myself trying to escape this new like between us, grown conscientious about my running, lingering hours in the supermarket, pointlessly deliberating over brands of detergent, scrutinizing tubs of yogurt and butter substitute. Occasionally, I will tell Leah I'm leaving the flat to complete a specific activity and instead simply walk to some fixed point and stand there until I get bored enough to return. I don't think I'm even particularly clever about this. You said you were going to the gym, she'll say it to me sometimes. But you didn't take any kit with you. I'll tell her she misheard me and she will accept it, going back to staring at a point on her inner arm, or to running the taps in the kitchen until the sink fills up. So it seems like she does the same thing with the tap, with the kitchen sink. In the supermarket, then, Carmen squints at cans of chopped tomatoes, raises and lowers packets of differently shaped pasta. She has left her glasses in the office and can't see the number of fingers I'm holding up if I stand more than a foot away. What's this? She asks, holding up a parcel of orecchiette. Is this one that looks like ears? We've been friends since university. Okay, so Carmen seems to be a friend here. We've been friends since university, but our eyesight only really started to deteriorate over the past year or so. It went downhill so suddenly that she went to the doctor about it. Make-believing brain tumor. Make-believing brain tumors, grey shadows on X-ray printouts on her skull. This has always been the chief point over which our friendship has endured. The hypochondriac back and forth of two women with too much time on their hands. We've talked each other down from any number of ledges, from Carmen's meningitis panic to generalized fears around cancer and Alzheimer's and diseases. I'm concerned I might catch on or inherit, although in disease I am concerned I might catch or inherit. Though when Karen's eyesight started failing, I was too busy to help her as much as I should have. And I feel that between us a little now. So how's it going? She asks later. The two of us folded over coffees, our hair identically greased by the rain and fizzing out around our temples. The cafe is one we visit often, and familiarity has become a key concern for Carmen, just lately. I watch her fumble her way to the counter and back, her long hands running over the Perspex cake cabinet, twin smears that will need to be whipped away. It's fine, I say, carving my initials through latte foam with a teaspoon handle. It's strange, you know, but it's fine. I guess it must be weird, she says. The sweet plum of her voice, the way her vowels seem to take up more space than the shape of her mouth allows. Living with someone again after such a long absence. I guess it must be weird, she says, having to share your space. I look at her, open my mouth to tell her that's not what I meant at all. Living with someone again, I want to say, isn't what it feels like. When I moved in with Tom, she carries on, unable, I suppose, to read the fact of my open mouth. It was so weird for so long, like it felt such an invasion, you know? So Tom seems to be her boyfriend. Yeah. Well, Carmen's boyfriend. Like, you love someone, but that doesn't mean you want to be with them all the time, you know? Like sometimes I'd lock myself in the bathroom and just lie in a bath for half an hour. Not with the water running, I mean, just in the empty bath, just because it was the only way I could get some space. And I loved him, you know? So I really do get the disconnect. Carmen's ex-boyfriend, Tom, was a social worker and weekend DJ who eventually left her for reasons I never quite managed to grasp. Carmen typically speaks about him the way one might refer to a degree, a 3-year period one has to endure in order to talk with overbearing authority on exactly one subject. She is the world's living expert on loving and losing 30-year-old man named Tom. It's not really that so much, I say, turning my head towards the window so she can't follow the expression on my face. The rain has picked up. I never minded sharing the space. That felt like the whole point of living together. Later on, walking home, I stop at the petrol station and buy another cherry Coke to replace the one Leah wasted earlier in the day. I stand in the car park and watch the sky growing dark beyond the tower blocks. The buildings like faces buried in unclean pillows. We've always lived here. met in a pale electric summer, moved quickly from what our prospective basement studios to the first floor flat we have shared for 7 years. Before she transferred to the center, Leah used to take the train each morning, an hour at least, to run her out through brown, uncertain marshlands to the research facility, minutes from the sea. An hour back in again at night, her clothes salt glazed, her skin scoured, smooth by coastal weather. Strange to live in such proximity to an ocean that I almost never see. The city is veined with inland tributaries and close dispersed canals, waterlogged about its edges, bridged across its belly. A river running down its throat. August in the city is always strange, wet, scuttled through with insects freshly burst from shells. I scratch my calf with the toe of my left shoe and think about Leah, about her bright pale eyes and the shape of her mouth, and the feeling when we spoke for the first time that there were vast places in the world that I had never yet thought to go. Okay, there is a little plus here. She's at a different time. 1,000 years ago, Leah held a hand over my mouth in the bathroom at the wedding of a mutual friend. We'd gone into the stall together because I needed help with the buttons up the back of my jumpsuit, and had ended up trapped when one of the bridesmaids came in and started sobbing to someone on the phone. It was roughly 5 o'clock. Fireworks planned for 7:30 and rain forecast for 6. I just don't think the bridesmaids wailed into her mobile that it's such a big deal when I've been crying her fucking spare shoes around with me all day. I've been carrying her fucking spare shoes around with me all day. I just don't think that it's so much to ask to be understanding when I handmade those fucking centerpieces myself. In the stall, I pictured the bridesmaid, 6 of them, goose-fleshed in summer dresses. During the ceremony, they had stood in line as if in preparation for a hanging. The sense of a barely under control Salem, implicit in their fixed expressions, in the mess of arms that later reached towards the bride at the behest of the wedding photographer. We're doing a funny one now. Act like you all want to choke her. Okay, so here's the photograph talking. Leah gave me a warning look, which tumbled off into a smile, pressing her hand down harder to stop me from laughing. I'm just so tired, the bridesmaid sighed. The plink of earrings removed and dropped into the sink. I just can't believe she's so angry at me because Oh, right. Yes, of course. I'm sorry. Absolutely. Go if you have to go. She dissolved into fresh sobs, and I watched Leah's face change a little. Her typical reaction to genuine suffering always being to cease laughing before I did, and then look at me until I stopped. I rolled my eyes at her, and she pulled her hand away from my mouth, murmured, "Come on," before easing the bathroom door open. The bridesmaid by the sink had apparently suffered a catastrophically unexpected period. Oh, so she's got her period when she's at her wedding. "Hey," Leah said, and the lavender silk of her dress streaked red all up the back. "Hey," Leah said, and the bridesmaid jumped and turned and then carried on crying. And Leah told her not to worry, and then listened to her sob for 20 minutes, while I sat beside the sink and handed over a pound and handed over a pound for the tampon machine. So she put £1 to get the tampon. Later on, fireworks cooled off because of the rain. Leah went out to the covered porch, and I went with her. Across the courtyard, a view of the rest of the venue. Wide, white outbuildings arranged in the semicircle. Georgian by design. It had apparently been used as the primary setting for a recent Austen adaptation on a mid-budget cable channel. Cardboard cutouts of the hero and heroine standing life-size in the reception area. Sun faded towards the end of the tourist season. For all its photogenic lines, the house retained little of its original features beyond a tottering cupola and a widow's walk made semi-lethal with age. A folly, so the receptionist had explained, unprompted, when we first arrived. Widow's walk are typically a feature of coastal dwellings. Wives would watch for their husbands' ships, mothers for their sons, fishing boats, whalers, smugglers. And there was always the possibility of pirates, things to look out for. Not so helpful 60 miles inland. Back inside, the previously distraught bridesmaid was now dancing, having tied her boyfriend's suit jacket around her waist to cover the stain. That's sweet, Leah had said when she saw the boyfriend offering the jacket, and had grinned at her without really knowing why. I'll do that for you, she added. She had added. Next time you have a terrible period, I am wearing a suit. On the porch, I took her hand, and we stood like that for a while, saying nothing. It occurred to me to joke that when we got married, I wouldn't want anyone to worry about bleeding through their dresses. That when we got married, would be often if everyone didn't menstruate freely all over the place. I didn't say this, as we hadn't yet officially talked about getting married. And anyway, the quiet was as nice as anything else. So this section was, so she's recollecting here her memories before they got married. So here is another, it seems like it's now back to the present. I guess it must be weird, Carmen had said, having to share your space. I think about this a lot in the gasps where my and Leah's conversation ought to be. At dinner, leaning up against the counter. My tongue swells with it, my throat and palate clenching vainly around the lack. We say nothing to each other. I ask her if she wants to eat. She tells me no. She asks me what I'm drinking. But still, in a very fundamental sense, we say nothing. Even her reassurances about the blood, about the places where her skin has changed color, are starting to fade away. Sometimes I imagine the things I want to say to her, but increasingly I find myself capable of producing little, but a kind of mental white noise. My brain moves like a jump between radio stations, falling off topics without warning, cutting to music, to adverts, to weather. I go about my work, chop onions, over-season my food. Every so often, I imagine I hear the neighbor's television prompting me to speak, although on these occasions, it's typically just a game show host inviting a contestant to answer a question before the time runs out. One morning, I read a newspaper article about a Korean woman who ate improperly prepared seafood and subsequently went to the doctor complaining of a growth on the inside of her cheek. The doctor, assuming a cyst or a fibrous tumor, ordered a biopsy, but on opening her up, they found nothing to indicate cancer. Instead, embedded inside the growth, they found the bodies of 12 tiny organisms squirmed with suckers, each a little over a centimeter in length. So it transpired the squid that this woman had eaten had been prepared without first having its organs removed. The woman, or more specifically her buccal mucosa, had thus become unwitting host to a dozen squid paralarvae, minute creatures which on removal the doctor thoughtfully placed in a fluid preservative and gave to the woman to take home. Listen to this, I say, reading aloud from the kitchen table without exactly meaning to. On first discovering the paralarva, Dr. Shim was heard to remark that he would be cancelling the sushi he had ordered for lunch. That's funny, I say. Don't you think that's funny? Okay, so here, because this woman ate sushi. Was it sushi or seafood? Yes, she ate some seafood, and it seems like she got an infection from the seafood. And so you've got the doctor who treated her, that looking at this big infection, he canceled the sushi that he had planned because no, he didn't want to have the same problem. Okay, so yeah, so it's quite funny in a way. Leah is sitting across the table, staring at some point just north of my head. When I nudge my foot against hers, she blinks, an expression that of someone who's been pulled from some more practical task. I spread the paper out on the table between us, point out the pictures which accompany the article. In the first, a woman holds up the jam jar into which she had decanted her specimens. The ossified little bodies in their greenish liquid reminding me oddly of the sea monkeys I begged for there is 2 4 here. There is like I begged for my 8th. Yeah, I begged for my 8th birthday and never received. The caption beneath the picture, Ms. Moon presents her offspring. The second photograph shows the doctor who performed the biopsy posing incongruously before a wall of white hydrangeas. It's types of flowers. They're like kind of quite big. When they blossom, they're quite big flowers. I squint hard at the 2 photographs, replaying the article like a fairy story and imagining the patient and doctor going on to fall in love and marry bridesmaids strewing a wet confetti of squid eggs at their wedding. Do you think she felt better with those things out of her? Leah asks, and I look at her, tight, piercing thrill of her saying something, like a needle forced through skin. I look at her for a moment, the long neck and back, and all her leaning down over the newspaper. 2 fingers pinched around the head of the doctor in the photograph, as though attempting to prise it off. I poke my tongue into my mouth and try to imagine such a haunting of praying open Leah's mouth and finding something pressed against the backs of her teeth. I want to tell her it should all come out, every piece of it. Bad cells extracted from her body. I want to tell her that it has to feel better to be rid of. In the end, however, I only shrug, still squinting at the photo of the woman with her jar of tiny bodies, the tight bouquet of tentacles and fleshly white mantles, a convention of sheeted ghosts. Who knows? I say. Think of the inside of someone's mouth. All that squelching dark. I'd expect they were gladder to be shot of her. What would you have done if you'd found something like that in your mouth? She's looking at me seriously now. I think about my own mouth. Imagine it filled with things that have no business being there. Ghost groans of words that died before my tongue could shape them. If I found something like that in my mouth, I'd spit it out. Okay, in a different time frame here. Times. We used to watch movies. It was our thing. Our first obvious point of connection. Our first dates revolved around it, watching movies by Cronenberg and Bava, alone in cinemas, emptied out by summer weather, Leah's shoulder damp against my own, and the scuffle of mice in dark places, behind the screen and along the backs of our chairs. In the evenings, after these dates, we would wander together, arguing about Shivers and The Fly, about whether or not. So these are names of films, Shivers and The Fly. About whether or not a movie even counted as a date if it didn't come attendant on dinner. The first time Leah stayed over at mine, we watched Jaws and afterwards talked so long about how Hooper and Brody and Joe's. So probably I might have made a mistake. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Anyway, sorry. I was just thinking about, these extract, those quotes, one from Moby Dick, and maybe this two quotes are from the film Jaws, remember? I thought Jaws was a character in Moby Dick or something, and maybe, I don't know. Maybe you've got the answer. Tell me. So here, because she's mentioning the film Jaws, the film with the shark. I think it's Steven Spielberg's film. No, I'm not sure. So it's probably a quote from the film Jaws here. Yeah. Okay. The first time Leah stayed over at mine, we watched Jaws and afterwards talked so long about how Hooper and Brody were obviously in love that we forgot to have sex and simply fell asleep together. Leah's ankle hooked over my hip. In the morning, she woke me up by playing the Jaws theme full volume in my ear. My friends often told me in these early days that we were similar. Sometimes I always thought bizarre, although Leah pointed out that all they meant by this was that we both talked fast and watched movies in the evenings after work. In truth, I never thought there were too many points of congruence between us. We were both small, though I was specifically short and Leah specifically skinny. We both hated loud noises and bad manners and enjoyed the peculiar clench of city space. Beyond that, beyond that, there were a few similarities. On occasion, particularly with friends like Carmen, it occurred to me that this perceived resemblance between Leah and myself had more to do with the two of us being women than it did with anything real. "You're just like twins," Carmen said once. "I wish I had what you have." I found myself wanting to point out that she and her boyfriend Tom actually had a lot in common, though this didn't seem a point on which she longed for me to press. I watch movie alone now. Leah's concentration is not what it used to be. When I can't sleep, which is often, I take myself out of the spare room and watch movies on the living room floor until the sky grows light beyond the telegraph poles, and my back starts to hump from sitting so long with my arms curled over my knees. I watch only movies I've seen before. Impossible, I think, to follow something new, to find the will to do so. I put Jaws on once, although this turned out to be a mistake, and I turned it off within the first 10 minutes. I haven't really watched the film Jaws, entirely, but it seems like, but it's about this shark that it's eating everyone, and and probably eating this and drowning this ship probably, and well, knowing about the story, it makes sense that it's not necessarily the film that you would watch knowing that your wife went through had an accident in the deep sea. So yeah, doesn't seem to be very appropriate here to watch Jaws. The first time we watched that movie together, and then turned it within the first 10 minutes. The first time we watched that movie together, Leah went into great detail about all the ways she would have gone about catching the shark, about the technology available, the ways in which our ability to observe and understand marine life has advanced since the mid-1970s. After talking like this for several minutes, she suddenly grinded me, cutting herself off and rolling her eyes to the ceiling. "But this is boring," she says. "I don't want to be boring. We're watching a movie." I shook my head and turned down the sound on the television. "No," I said to her. "No, not boring at all." Okay, so this is the end of Miri's part, and now there is a very so here in this session the main so we are at the end of the sunlight zone. Remember, there are 5 different sections in the book. So there is a big chapter of Miri talking, and now here a very brief chapter on Leah. Okay, let's finish this. Jelka prayed, because that was what Jelka did. Matthias said nothing, only checked and rechecked the oxygen systems and announced every time that we were fine, still breathing. I'm not entirely sure what I did. It occurred to me several times in a midly hysterical manner that a submarine going down was not in itself a terrible thing. It occurred to me several times to say this: what are we worried about? This is just what we're supposed to be doing. I didn't say this, of course, only held my finger against the transmission button at 10-second intervals and registered dead signal each time. Typically, it should take a manned submersible. Okay, sorry. Typically, it should take a manned submersible craft, a managed submersible craft anywhere between 3 and 4 hours to reach the deepest point in the ocean, depending on the size of the craft and its engines. I wondered, in a fairly distant way, what would happen when we hit the bottom and couldn't control the ballast tanks to bring us up again. I wondered how it was that the system had cut out in all meaningful ways except when it came to the CO2 scrubbers. I wished, with a vehemence which felt vaguely misplaced, that I had thought to bring a deck of cards with me. I imagined the three of us sitting at the bottom of the ocean and playing Old Maid. So Old Maid seemed to be a game, a card game. Hi, Etienne. Hello. The deep sea is dark, particularly when the lights on your submersible craft have cut out for reasons unknown. I did my best to keep my gaze away from the windows. Thought of strange shaped ocean creatures peering in at the three of us and smiling with all of their teeth. Right. So this is it. This is the end of the first section. So we've read the sunlight zone section of the book, and tomorrow we will start the twilight zone. Right. So again, a good session, good reading session here. Yeah, leave me a comment if you have any questions about the story. I'm going to leave you with this, and I will talk again. I will do the recap tomorrow. We will have time to reflect a little bit more on this part of the book and what we've read today, and have more time to reflect on the characters and on the plot, I would say. Yeah, so don't hesitate to ask any questions or to leave a comment about this live reading or about the book. And I hope that you enjoyed this live reading. Make sure you subscribe to the book club membership to attend our first live workshop this Saturday. And also remember that you can now purchase the 3-part live workshop of Daisy Jones and the Six, and watch the videos at your own pace and read the book at the same time if you haven't read it. And that's it for me. I wish you a beautiful end of the day and a good evening, I would say at this time. And I will see you tomorrow for another session of our Wives Under the Sea. We will read pages 37 to 58. And that's it. Thank you, Keti. Thank you so much for attending the live. And I think that there are 3 people attending the live. So thank you so much for attending. I don't know who else. Oh, hey, thank you. My pleasure. I'm not sure how to pronounce your Instagram name. So thank you so much for being here. And see you tomorrow, maybe. Bye-bye. Bye.